Discover how a shy office clerk's one mistaken note sparked an incredible CEO transformation. Emily sat in her cubicle, a fortress of paperwork trapping her in another endless cycle of monotony. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, merging with the dull, droning rhythm of typing fingers and muffled conversations in the sprawling corporate office. At 28, she felt invisible, buried under expectations no one seemed to question. As colleagues dismissed her work, painting her as a timid office clerk with no ambition, shadows lurked in every crevice of her mind, whispering reminders of her worthlessness. Burdened by isolation, she longed for connections beyond the dull gray walls surrounding her, a yearning only accentuated by weekly coffee dates with her wise grandmother, the only person who saw Emily in her entirety. On that sunny afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the large office windows, she found a moment's reprieve to craft a note to her grandmother. Her pen danced on the paper, releasing thoughts of love and longing. "I miss our weekends together," she wrote, eager to pour out her heart. But in an absent-minded moment, she unwittingly thrust the note into a crucial report destined for James Harrison, the company's intimidating CEO. Panic clawed at her throat as the real magnitude of her error surfaced. The CEO had no patience for sentiment. How could he? James, known for his cold demeanor and relentless pursuit of profit, received the report with his usual steely resolve. But as he read Emily's heartfelt words, an unexpected flicker of curiosity ignited. "I miss our coffee dates," echoed in his mind, a stark contrast to the ambition that had defined his existence. Surrounding herself with love and kindness, he realized that this shy clerk had more to offer than he had ever imagined. But a nagging doubt remained, stifling the budding warmth that Emily's words provoked. What did he truly know about human connection? And would that connection crumble under the weight of corporate demands? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With newfound determination, James reached out to Emily, initiating an exchange that quickly transcended their initial awkwardness. He sought clarity, but as he engaged with her, her fear of being dismissed threatened to silence her voice. How could a clerk like her have anything meaningful to contribute? Anxiety lunged within her as she shared her thoughts on creative initiatives. They resonated deeply with James, sparking a mentorship laden with both potential and pressure. Yet, the winds shifted ominously as whispers of rivalry crept through the office hallways. Detractors mocked her ideas, launching an undercurrent of doubt that surged through her mind. Could they really dismantle what she had built? The tension began to mount. Could she trust a newly forged bond with James, whose loyalty to the company clashed with emerging feelings for Emily? With every agonizing moment, the clock ticked relentlessly towards a decision point, a choice that would not only bring clarity to her aspirations but could also redefine a corporate landscape long devoid of connection. The stakes felt impossibly high, leaving Emily standing on the precipice of an unknown future, every heartbeat filled with the pulsating anxiety of what lay ahead. Emily stared blankly at her computer screen, the familiar pulse of anxiety thrumming beneath her skin. The haze of worries intertwined with an unexpected collaboration with James to create a cocktail of anticipation and dread. She had stepped beyond the confines of her cubicle, engaging with a visionary who had previously seemed untouchable. Each exchange with him felt like a delicate dance, one moment flowing with inspiration, the next deflating under the weight of self-doubt. Her mornings were now a blend of exhilaration and trepidation. Walking into the office, Emily carried not only her laptop but the burgeoning recognition of her ideas gaining traction. Still, the whispers of her colleagues followed her like dark shadows, mocking her aspirations. Detractors were hardly subtle, their snickers and eye rolls dissected her newfound enthusiasm, reminding her of the barriers she constantly battled against. During one of their meetings, James had outlined a plan to reinvigorate their stagnant marketing strategy. As he spoke, his passionate vision ignited something within her, a flicker of confidence previously doused in insecurity. But the clarity of the moment was tainted by a familiar voice in her head, echoing questions that clawed at her resolve. Did she truly belong in these discussions, or was she merely an imposter waiting to be unmasked? It was this struggle that brought her back to the safety of her grandmother's words. "You have a voice, dear. Don't silence it." Memories of those precious coffee dates flooded her mind. In those moments, she had learned that vulnerability could be a strength, not a weakness. As the week progressed, she collected her thoughts with each passing encounter with James, preparing to present an idea she had nurtured in the quiet recesses of her mind. On the day of the pitch, her heart raced as she stood before a small group, her palms slick with sweat. She looked into James's eyes, where he offered a reassuring nod. Maybe he believed in her. But then the flood of self-doubt crashed over her, dampening her resolve. Was this just a fleeting phase? The very notion of her colleague's skepticism loomed large, making her question her decision to step into the spotlight. As she began to speak, words stumbled out in a rush, carried by a sense of urgency. Her proposal combined innovative social media strategies with authentic community engagement approaches that contrasted sharply with the cold, calculated tactics the company had long favored. For once, there was no hesitation in her voice. She had chosen to be bold. Yet, she could not escape the small voice whispering fearfully in the back of her mind. Upon finishing, there was a profound silence. Emily held her breath as she braced for the storm of critique she believed was inevitable. What if they dismissed her? What if they laughed? Instead, James broke the silence, his words both firm and encouraging. "This is refreshing, Emily. Transformative even. It's time we brought humanity back into our brand." Her heart soared momentarily until the divided faces of her colleagues turned towards her, some acknowledging her with nods of reluctant respect, while others grimaced as if they had bitten into something sour. A surge of adrenaline and doubt coursed through her. Would she force change or shatter under pressure? As the day unfolded, the realization that she had planted a seed became painfully clear. If she wanted it to blossom, she had to tend to it, perhaps even confront those who doubted her. She felt the weight of the challenges ahead pressing down on her, a looming test not only of her resilience but of her character. With each passing hour, Emily recognized the urgency of her journey, each moment intertwining her destiny with James's vision for the company. The stakes had never been higher. She was on the brink of something that could define her not just in her career, but in her sense of self. What emerged next would challenge her in ways she never anticipated, lighting a fire within her that demanded to be unleashed. The pressure to transform both herself and the corporate culture was mounting. Just as she felt that flicker of resolve, the door swung open, revealing a familiar face from her past, one that could overturn everything she had worked to build. And with that, the reality of her choices began to collide in a way she never imagined. Would she find the strength to confront her past, or would it consume her present? Emily blinked at the figure in the doorway, her pulse quickening as memories rushed back. It was Sarah, her former mentor from her early days in the industry, a woman who had once embodied everything Emily aspired to be. But it was hard to reconcile that image with the toxic undercurrents of their past. The last time they had seen each other was embroiled in tumult, a moment that had left Emily reeling for years. "Emily," Sarah's voice cut through the tension like a knife, laced with a familiarity that only deepened the unease. "I didn't expect to find you here." The words hung in the air, sharp and heavy, as Emily squared her shoulders. She couldn't afford to falter now, not when she was just beginning to assert herself. Flashes of their previous encounters surged through her mind, competitive meetings, whispered criticisms, a painful sense of inadequacy that had plagued her every step. Just as Emily opened her mouth to respond, James stepped between them, sensing the charged atmosphere. "Sarah, welcome back. We were just discussing some exciting developments." He gestured toward Emily, visibly trying to bridge the widening gap. For a moment, Emily clung to James's presence, grateful for his intervention. But it was short-lived. Sarah's gaze bore down on her, a mix of nostalgia and skepticism. "I heard about your pitch. Bold move." "Thank you," Emily replied, forcing steadiness into her voice. The compliment felt like a weapon, poised to be turned against her. Without skipping a beat, she added, "It's crucial we adapt, right?" "That's one way to look at it," Sarah replied, her tone sharp as she tilted her head slightly. "But have you thought about the consequences of departing from tried-and-true methods? Risks often come with failures, and you have to be sure you're up for that." The challenge resonated deeply within Emily, stirring that old, familiar panic. Was she truly ready to face this? The memories of doubt surged around her like a storm, her past entwined with the present as this woman once a source of inspiration now stood before her as an emblem of everything that had held her back. "I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't believe in it," Emily said, her resolve hardening. The surface calm disguised the chaos within her mind, conflicting layers of determination and anxiety swirling in tandem. She was beginning to recognize that Sarah's presence wasn't just a threat, it was a test. With each word exchanged, Emily felt emboldened to combat the tempest inside. She had spent so long doubting her abilities, but here she stood, holding her ground and articulating her visions, even in the haze of uncertainty. This confrontation was about more than just proving herself to Sarah, it was a necessary step towards redefining her place in the world that had long made her feel small. As the meeting concluded, there was an unwelcome tension not just from her interactions with Sarah but a new sense of expectation that now lay thick in the air. The work ahead was to be relentless, but with each step, Emily would not just rise above her past, she would reshape it. Emboldened, she turned to James after Sarah departed. "I have to figure this out, don't I? Not just the work, but myself." James nodded, his expression both supportive and thoughtful. "You've made a strong start, Emily. Expect resistance, but that's part of transformation." Once alone in the quiet of the office, Emily took a deep breath and felt a stirring within, a promise to challenge not just herself, but the shadows of her past. Memories of Sarah lingered in her thoughts, a catalyst for her growth and so much more than just a haunting presence. Time was running out, and Emily knew she had to confront this head-on. The uncharted path ahead was daunting but electrifying. What awaited her was not only the potential for professional success but the chance to discover hidden depths within herself that she had long buried. As she prepared for that challenge, her heart raced with uncertainty and excitement intertwined. The next step lay before her, one that would lead to the confrontation that awaited. Would she stand her ground and finally claim her narrative, or would she spiral into the familiar patterns of self-doubt? Each question propelled her toward the inevitable truth she was about to face. Emily stared at her desk, the hum of the office fading into the background. Thoughts of Sarah's skeptical gaze loomed large, a reminder of all the doubts she had navigated to reach this point. Every encounter with her had felt like a battle against a whispering specter that sought to undermine her confidence. Now, it was as if that specter had materialized before her, forcing her to reckon with both her past and her aspirations. Drawing a deep breath, Emily redirected her focus on her pitch. It represented not just a project but a pivotal moment, the dawning realization of her own capabilities. She had dared to challenge conventions, and now she needed to ensure that others understood her vision. Determined, she started to map out her strategy. The creative process began as a jumbled mass of ideas, but with each passing moment, clarity emerged. Emily envisioned a presentation that emphasized the urgency of innovation and the necessity of adapting in an ever-evolving market. She was determined to show her colleagues the potential for growth rather than fear of failure. However, the ghost of Sarah lingered. What if they shared her doubts? What if they questioned every assumption she made? She forced herself to acknowledge those fears. They were valid, everyone around her had their experiences and biases. But this time, Emily resolved to flip the narrative. Maybe those fears could act as a springboard for stronger arguments. She began drafting her presentation, pulling from market research and case studies that mirrored her concepts. The more she focused, the more confidence surged within her. Emily recognized that data could help bridge gaps, the solid footing needed to counter any skepticism from Sarah or others in the room. Throughout the day, Emily embarked into the office kitchen for brief interludes of caffeine. She relished the moments where silence wrapped around her like a protective cloak. It allowed her the space to confront her inner tumult. She thought of the younger version of herself who had relied on validation from others, too afraid to step into the limelight alone. Was it fair for that Emily to dictate her path? No. Empowered, she began to jot down affirmations on sticky notes and pepper them across her workspace. I am capable. My ideas deserve to be heard. Growth is in the risk. With each note, she felt echoes of her former self fade, swallowed by stronger affirmations of her potential. Hours drew within the void of twilight, and the office quieted. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline course through her as she reviewed her work. By midnight, she finished polishing her presentation. It felt like a commitment, a promise she made not just to her team but also to herself. She resolved that regardless of the outcome, there would be no retreat from this new narrative she crafted. But as she prepared to close her laptop, an email notification popped up on her screen, an invitation for a follow-up meeting with Sarah to review new initiatives and strategies. The invitation sent a ripple of fear through her. Did Sarah intend to use this meeting as another opportunity to undermine her progress? Suddenly, her determination faced a new test. Would she express her ideas openly, even with Sarah's shadow looming over her, or would she shrink back into the familiar patterns that felt safe but stifling? With her heart pounding and her resolve steeling, Emily clicked the acceptance icon, the pathway to her confrontation solidifying. The stage was set not just for her professional growth but for a deeper understanding of her own strength. In the flickering glow of her computer screen, a single thought crystallized: she could no longer allow the doubts of her past to dictate her present. The moment of truth was approaching. How would she harness her transformation in that pivotal meeting? As the dawn light spilled across her barren desk, illuminating the array of sticky notes with their affirmations, Emily readied herself for the day ahead. She dressed deliberately, choosing a tailored blazer that felt both empowering and protective. Today was not just another day, it was a stepping stone toward reshaping her narrative. Each step through the office felt like a ritual, a culmination of all the internal battles she had fought and the moments of doubt she had faced. When she reached the conference room, it was still empty. Emily took a moment to breathe, standing before the vast whiteboard that would soon host her ideas. The scent of fresh coffee lingered in the air, a small comfort against the tension bubbling within her. She set up her laptop and glanced at the materials she had curated: data, visuals, success stories, evidence of her potential and vision. She understood the stakes. To lean into her strengths, she needed to showcase not just what innovative strategies could accomplish, but also how they could energize the team. The door creaked open, and Sarah entered with her usual air of self-assuredness. Emily's pulse quickened. The specter was real. The two exchanged polite nods, but the tension hung palpably between them. Other colleagues began to trickle in, and as the chairs scraped against the floor, Emily felt the weight of each gaze. She was acutely aware that Sarah's presence carried the power to sway the group's perception, and doubts from their last encounter loomed large in her mind. As the meeting commenced, Sarah efficiently laid out the agenda, her voice authoritative and commanding. Emily listened intently, gauging the demeanor of her colleagues as Sarah touched on the need for new strategies. When it was Emily's turn to present, she stood, her heart drum-like in her chest, the world narrowing to the projected slides she had prepared. She began with a steady voice, breaking down the initial barrier of fear. As she introduced her core ideas, she noticed subtle nods from her colleagues' encouragement or mere habit. Nonetheless, she pressed on, unleashing the data she had meticulously gathered to combat any skepticism that may arise. With each statistic she cited, confidence grew within her. She realized that clarity in communication sparked engagement in her audience. As she reached the section about adapting to market trends, she could see Sarah's expression shift. The skepticism she had anticipated did not materialize. Instead, intrigue was apparent. Emily seized the moment, shifting her narrative to address potential concerns head-on. Was she veering into dangerous territory? No, she was highlighting possibilities, opening the floor for dialogue. Finally, with the last slide unveiled, Emily invited feedback. Perhaps it was a gamble, but in her gut, she felt empowered. The room was silent for a heartbeat, and she could feel the collective breath of her colleagues, including Sarah. Then, Sarah raised her hand. Emily's heart skipped. Would the spectre return? Interesting approach, Sarah said, tilting her head with guarded admiration. But how will you measure success? Emily took a breath. This was the moment her previous self would have faltered. Instead, she embraced it, outlining her metrics with finesse. As she spoke, she realized this encounter was shifting her not just as a professional but as a person who dared to assert her worth. The meeting ended with a collaborative discussion, and Emily stepped away with an unexpected sense of triumph. She had articulated her vision fiercely, surprising even herself. In the days to come, she decided she would follow up with her colleagues to solidify partnerships for her proposal. If she could engage with them outside the walls of that conference room, perhaps the specter of doubt would dissolve completely. But as she walked back to her desk, feeling buoyant, a nagging thought tugged at her. Had she truly transformed her standing, or was it merely a fleeting moment? With this question echoing in her mind, she knew there was still work to do. Conversations with Sarah loomed ahead, and facing her shadows might connect her budding confidence with an essential truth. The real challenge awaited. Would she continue to challenge herself and grow, or would the doubts return to cloud her progress? The answer was just out of reach, but tomorrow would bring another opportunity to confront them head-on. Emily awoke to the soft glow of morning light filtering through her window, yet the lingering doubts from the previous day's meeting shadowed her. She had felt invigorated as she walked out of the conference room, but now, with the weight of hours in contemplation, uncertainty majored in her thoughts. Had she truly struck a chord with her colleagues, or had they merely nodded in polite acknowledgement of her effort? As she prepared for the day ahead, she made a conscious decision to approach this morning differently. She was more than a mere contributor, she was a creator of change. The tailored blazer she donned not only enveloped her in empowerment but reminded her that she had a vision to share, one that could manifest excitement in her team. Walking into the office, a sense of purpose enveloped her. This time, her steps were deliberate, not hesitant. There would be conversations today not just with her colleagues, but with Sarah too. Emily couldn't ignore the challenge. She needed to confront the specter head-on, to strip away the false layers of uncertainty. Upon entering her workspace, she noticed a piece of paper tucked under a stack of reports, one she hadn't seen before. It was a note, seemingly scribbled in a hurry, asking for clarification on some metrics she'd discussed. Thoughts swirled through her mind. Who had written it? What specifically did they need? As curiosity flared, she couldn't help but see this as an opportunity. This was a pathway leading toward deeper connections, a chance to influence her team's understanding of her ideas further. Would this anonymous request become the catalyst for a bridge into collaboration? Emily decided to take action. Instead of waiting for someone to approach her, she took a deep breath and initiated a meeting. Her voice steady, she sent a quick invite to the group. Let's gather for a brainstorming session on the metrics I proposed. I believe there's a significant opportunity to refine our strategies together. As the responses began trickling in, her anxiety transformed into determination. Those who accepted came with a sense of eagerness, perhaps even curiosity, about her approach. When the time arrived for the meeting, the office had a buzz of energy. Colleagues filled the room, and Emily began with an open invitation for questions regarding her previous presentation. Some raised their hands hesitantly but discovered they had unspoken concerns. Each inquiry brought forth a new layer of discussion, and Emily noticed how her confidence began to weave seamlessly with each engaging exchange. Then came a familiar voice: Sarah. So how do we implement these measurements alongside our current processes? The question hung in the air. Emily felt that familiar tinge of fear but reminded herself of the progress she'd made. Instead of deferring to Sarah's authority as she might have done before, she proposed a solution to integrate their systems creatively, framing her answer in a way that invited collaboration rather than competition. The willingness to engage with Sarah shifted something within her. It was no longer about the threat she posed; instead, it became a rich opportunity for teamwork. As they delved into the details, everyone contributed their insights, and the initial tension evaporated, replaced by a sense of mutual purpose. After the meeting, Emily felt a rush of elation. She had transformed her fear into understanding, and the specter of doubt began to dissipate. Yet, a new reality loomed on the horizon. Was Sarah shifting her perspective too? Leaving for the day, Emily's sense of accomplishment was overshadowed by the realization that open dialogue could lead to unexpected alliances. The only question lingering in her mind was how much of this new clarity stemmed from her courage and how much depended on the choices others were willing to make. With that thought circling in her head, she couldn't ignore the exhilaration that crept in. Tomorrow, she would not only build on this momentum but would also prepare to navigate the unexpected pathways of collaboration and whatever that journey would reveal about herself next. What would the next confrontation unveil? Only time would tell if it would forge new relationships or deepen the challenges she sought to conquer. Emily awoke the next morning, her mind still abuzz with anticipation. The weight of yesterday's accomplishments clung to her, urging her to pursue the changes she had started. As she pulled on a simple yet sharp blouse, she considered how empowerment was a choice she needed to reaffirm daily. Walking into the office, she noticed a change in atmosphere and undercurrent of excitement. Colleagues glided past, sharing snippets of conversation about the ideas discussed in the brainstorming session. Each word fueled a flicker of pride in Emily's chest. They were engaging with her concepts, not just tolerating them. But what would today bring? Her desk bore a new collection of notes, scribbles from colleagues eager to clarify their thoughts. She flipped through them, recognizing the immense potential for constructive dialogue just waiting to unravel. Instead of deferring to the chaos of tasks piled high, Emily made her plan. She would take a proactive role in these conversations, inviting everyone to the table. Over the course of the morning, she began mingling with her colleagues, starting informal discussions rooted in the strategies she had laid out. Reluctance had been her former companion, but as she moved from desk to desk, she exuded confidence. Ideas flowed freely, and she relished the sense of collaboration, discovering nuances in her team's understanding that she had previously overlooked. With each conversation, her initial intuition was validated, her insights were valued, not merely tolerated. As lunch approached, Emily found herself in the break room, pouring coffee into her mug. The door swung open, and in walked Sarah, her presence instantly commanding the room. Emily's heart raced. She hadn't anticipated running into her like this. "Mind if I join you?" Sarah asked, a friendly grin on her face. "Of course," Emily replied, suppressing the impulse to falter. For a moment, they exchanged small talk, light, casual. Then, with a shift in tone, Sarah asked, "What's the secret to generating that enthusiasm during your meetings? I noticed it made quite a difference." Emily was taken aback. A sincere question, not a challenge. This was a rare moment, and she seized it. "I think it's about inviting others to share their thoughts, creating space for everyone's voice. We all have a stake in the outcome, right?" As they delved further into the discussion, Emily noticed Sarah nodding in earnest, her once imposing demeanor softening. A wave of realization washed over Emily. This was no longer a battle of wills but an authentic exchange. They were collaborating within their talents, building bridges where once there were walls. The dialogue evolved into ideas for integrating metrics in a way that showed both team strengths, blurring the lines of hierarchy. Sarah seemed genuinely interested in Emily's perspectives, and together they crafted a refined pitch outlining the practical applications of their discussions. That afternoon, Emily brought their ideas to the larger team, invigorated by this unexpected partnership with Sarah. The reception was positive. Her colleagues responded with enthusiasm, propelling her forward, as if they had collectively breathed life into her vision. Yet, the moment was bittersweet. Unbeknownst to her still lurked a dread she couldn't fully articulate. Would their unity hold when facing pressure from higher-ups? Conflicted yet optimistic, Emily left the office that day contemplating the fragility of their newfound collaboration. She could feel profound change on the horizon, both for herself and within her team. What white-knuckle challenges awaited her next, and how would her relationship with Sarah evolve under scrutiny? Would they be able to weather the storm together, or would their successes unravel in the face of opposition? Only by diving deeper into her newfound role could Emily uncover the answer. Emily arrived at the office the next morning, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Yesterday's collaboration with Sarah felt like the first step onto a tightrope, and today, she was unsure if she would continue walking gracefully or risk losing her balance. Her mind raced with thoughts of how their ideas would be received by their superiors. Would the enthusiasm she had garnered yesterday hold under the scrutiny of management? As she settled in at her desk, she couldn't help but notice the lingering buzz among colleagues. Conversations resumed about the pitch they had developed together, each word proving her strategies were resonating. The excitement felt infectious, yet it brought with it a creeping fear of failure. Was she truly ready to defend her ideas in front of higher-ups? Her internal dialogue was tumultuous, fluctuating between self-doubt and a burgeoning sense of empowerment. Throughout her morning, Emily spoke with her peers, absorbing their viewpoints and feedback, adjusting her approach as necessary. It was as if they were all constructing a mosaic of ideas, and her confidence ballooned with every supportive comment. Yet, beneath the surge of affirmation was a silent worry, a whisper of doubt questioning her authority to lead discussions in a space where she had previously felt diminished. The clock struck noon. It was time for the call with upper management. As she joined the virtual meeting, the weight of responsibility settled heavily on her shoulders. Sarah appeared on screen, radiating calm confidence. Their eyes briefly met, and Emily felt a rush of reassurance. If they were to anchor each other through this, they might withstand the turbulence ahead. As they presented their findings, Emily deftly guided the conversation, seamlessly integrating her ideas with Sarah's. Their synergy was undeniable, each bouncing off the other's thoughts, amplifying their arguments. For a moment, she genuinely forgot the din of her self-doubt and concentrated solely on the feedback from the room. But as questions rolled in, Emily could feel the tension spiral back. The leadership's probing inquiries seemed almost like an interrogation. The momentum shifted when Bill, the head of the department, honed in on one of Emily's earlier notes about quantifying team performance. How will you ensure that these metrics reflect true team engagement and not just numbers on a screen? His tone, while probing, lacked hostility. But Emily's heart thudded against her ribs as anxiety pulsed through her. In that vulnerable moment, something in Emily flickered alive. I believe that measuring engagement can be multifaceted, she declared, drawing on her discussions with colleagues. Using qualitative feedback alongside quantitative data creates a fuller picture. It safeguards against a reductionist view, making sure that the numbers reflect real input. We are more than just statistics. There was a moment of silence as Bill absorbed her response, his brow furrowed in thought instead of immediate dismissal. A part of Emily's anxiety dissipated as she realized that her voice mattered not just to her colleagues but to those who once seemed unreachable. After the call, while gathering thoughts with Sarah back at the office, a newfound resolve ignited within her. We did it, Emily. You turned that question around, Sarah said, beaming. Emily felt a rush of triumph, the victory small but significant. Perhaps this was the beginning of a metamorphosis for both her career and her self-image. As they wrapped up their post-meeting discussion, tensions shifted once more when Emily recalled a critical piece of data that they hadn't included, one that could sway opinions further. The realization left her feeling both exhilarated and apprehensive. Would bringing it back to light now be seen as a lack of preparedness, or could it be the key to sealing their proposal? Determined not to lose steam, she sent a follow-up email to both Sarah and upper management, attaching the thought. As she hit send, a mixture of elation and dread flooded her. What if this revelation altered the trajectory of their collaborative success? Ahead lay uncertainty, not just about their project, but about the dynamic of her evolving relationship with Sarah. Trust could either solidify their foundations or sow seeds of competition and resentment. Would she harness this new layer of confidence or let doubt pull her back into her former self? The stakes felt higher than ever, brewing an internal storm that threatened her hard-won accomplishments. With challenges mounting, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that she was approaching a watershed moment. She would need to confront not only the voice of doubt but potentially the shifting dynamics within her partnership. How would she navigate this uncharted territory? Only time would tell if she truly had the armor to face what lay ahead. Emily stared at her computer screen, lingering over the blinking cursor in her email draft. Thoughts churned in her mind, shifting from exhilaration over her recent performance to a nagging apprehension about how her newly proposed data might be perceived. What if it came across as reckless or overly ambitious? Was she risking the trust Sarah had placed in her? The weight of her choices pressed heavily on her chest. After sending the email, she sought solace in the comfort of a small break room, where the lingering smell of coffee was almost a balm to her buzzing anxiety. Leaning against the counter, she watched her colleagues mingle and exchange snippets of their own work-life dramas. The camaraderie seemed effortless against the backdrop of her internal struggle. She took a deep breath, trying to absorb their ease, but the knot of uncertainty tightened. A message notification pulled her back to reality. It was a reply from Bill. Her heartbeat quickened as she opened it. "Let us discuss your proposal further. I'd like to hear your thoughts on integrating that data for our upcoming quarterly review." His words danced tantalizingly before her. A professional opportunity positioned in front of her like a billowing sail, yet her heart quaked beneath the ship's looming mast. In her small conference room later that day, Emily meticulously prepared for their follow-up discussion. She created a vibrant visual presentation aligning her findings with real-world implications. Calculations from prior projects flashed before her eyes, their numbers transformed into powerful images. Still, doubt gnawed at her resolve. When Sarah arrived, Emily greeted her with a smile, masking the now familiar anxiety that had become her companion. "I received a response," she announced, revealing Bill's interest with barely concealed excitement. Sarah's reaction was another surge of validation. "This is great. We can leverage our work to drive actual change. Your insights matter." Yet, with each affirmation, Emily grappled with shadows of doubt that whispered in her ear. Would Bill see her as a mere support to Sarah, or as an equal partner in leadership and innovation? A few days later, when Bill called to confirm the meeting, Emily felt her pulse quicken. This could solidify her newfound standing or unravel it entirely. She knew it was time to confront not only the scrutiny of those in authority but the inner critic that threatened to sabotage her progress. As she walked to the conference room, her footsteps resounded like drums of an impending march. Her thoughts raced, recalling the words she wanted to present, the tone she aimed to convey, and the calmness she needed to exude. Would she be able to maintain control where she once felt lost? Sitting across from Bill, she met his inquisitive gaze. He began with questions that probed deeper than before, challenging her to defend her stance without hesitation. Each inquiry cascading like waves, but Emily found herself riding the current rather than drowning in it. "Your perspective on combining qualitative and quantitative metrics is insightful," Bill commented, steering the conversation towards the application of her data. "But how do you plan to ensure that your recommendations will be actionable and not just theoretical?" With her heart racing but her voice steady, Emily articulated a concise map of execution. As she spoke, a confidence she hadn't known blossomed within her, empowering her responses. The conversation shifted from analysis to strategy drafting, and Emily felt the tension of self-doubt slowly dissipating like morning fog unveiling the sun. Bill leaned in, engaging seriously, and she realized she was holding her ground. Together, they navigated through numbers and ideas, with every exchange reaffirming her place at the table. When she finally left the meeting room, the exhilarating whirlwind of emotions left her breathless yet buoyed. She had not only embraced her ideas, she had challenged her fears head-on. But the aftermath was still uncharted territory. Would this momentum carry her forward, or would the looming shadow of her previous self creep back? As Emily re-entered the office, a mix of triumph and uncertainty coursed through her. It was clear that her professional transformation had only begun, yet the dawn of self-acceptance beckoned. How would she balance her newfound assertiveness with her partnership with Sarah as they continued to advance their combined goals? With the path ahead riddled with both promise and complexity, Emily stood poised, ready to embrace her journey into the unknown. Emily stood at the cusp of an extraordinary transformation as she faced the conference room. Her heart raced with anticipation and pride. After months of rising from the shackles of self-doubt and timidness, she had fully traversed the journey toward empowerment, and today marked the culmination of her growth. After successfully presenting her ideas to Bill and feeling the strength of that meeting anchor her resolve, Emily knew she had seamlessly woven herself into the fabric of her team. No longer was she merely a clerk hidden behind a cubicle, she had proven her capabilities and asserted her voice within the corporate landscape. The synergy she developed with Sarah had solidified their partnership, transforming them from reluctant rivals to allies in pursuit of innovative change. As she prepared for another crucial presentation today that would showcase the outcomes of her proposed strategies, she glanced at the familiar sticky notes plastered around her workspace. "My ideas deserve to be heard. I am capable." The affirmations gave her a sense of grounding, a reminder of just how far she had climbed. In the meeting room, colleagues filled the chairs, their expressions a mix of curiosity and anticipation. Emily took her place at the front, feeling the familiar flutter of anxious energy, but now it pulsed with excitement rather than dread. "Thank you all for being here today," she began, her voice steady and confident. Throughout the session, she unveiled the data she had painstakingly collected, supported by the collaborative insights she had gathered from her peers. It became clear that this was not merely a presentation of numbers, but rather a narrative of growth and evolution, an illustration of what could emerge when traditional boundaries were crossed. As she spoke, her colleagues responded with genuine interest, nodding in agreement, engaging in discussions, and even offering their support. Emily had genuinely fostered a collaborative environment that empowered voices beyond her own, ultimately displaying the value of teamwork in every aspect of their strategy. It was exhilarating to witness the energy shift from skepticism to unity, and she felt a wave of satisfaction wash over her. When Bill addressed her afterward, the warmth in his tone signaled a profound recognition. "Emily, you've not only provided innovative approaches but have also inspired the team to think collaboratively. Your confidence and insights are refreshing, and it's clear your hard work is paying off." The applause following his words felt like a victory lap, a tangible acknowledgement of her accomplishment. She had stepped into her identity with grace. The texts and emails flushed in afterward, remarks of appreciation and validation from her colleagues. They saw her as a leader, not just a participant. It was the affirmation she had always craved yet had struggled to believe she could achieve. As the day unfolded, Emily took time to reflect on her personal journey. The whispers of doubt that once clouded her mind were replaced with a chorus of affirmation and belonging. She had learned that vulnerability and ambition could coexist. She was no longer constrained by the fears of the past. Instead, she embraced her transformation as not just a professional triumph but a pivotal moment in self-discovery. Each step forward rewrote her narrative. The shy office clerk was now a proficient member of a team, respected for her ideas and determination. Sarah, too, updated their shared approach, demonstrating new levels of cooperation that were previously unimaginable. They engaged as equals, changed through their respective journeys. Before heading home, Emily sat in her office and reflected on her evolution. She was irresistibly drawn to the thought of possibility, not just for herself but for everyone around her. The specter of her former self had faded into a backdrop of bright potential, illuminating the path for others like her to find their voices. Now, more than ever, Emily understood the importance of nurturing her voice and encouraging others around her to do the same. Empowered and fulfilled, she stood ready to conquer whatever challenges awaited, knowing she was capable, worthy, and above all, unstoppable. This was her moment, one of transformation, achievement, and the thrilling promise of tomorrow. You need to subscribe now to our channel and be the first to witness more powerful stories of personal overcoming. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find inspiration. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Emily's incredible journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Spread the empowerment today.